Who want a ticket straight to them pearly gates?
There was this news article that was posted around the start of October. It slipped under the radar. But in this news article, Harada talks about Heihachi's introduction into Tekken 8 and also how Reina will be a part of that. It says, just because Heihachi is back, Reina's importance won't be diminished. In quotes, Harada lifts the lid on Heihachi's controversial return and tease for the future of Tekken 8. Who would have thought that Heihachi's return could ever be considered controversial? You can look at Heihachi from many different perspectives. I want to see how the discussion around his balancing evolves. I am one of the few people who thinks that Heihachi is ultra powerful. I know he's very popular right now. A lot of people are playing him, and the feedback that those players are giving is that he's not powerful at all. But I want to see if that continues in the next 1 to 2 years, because remember when Kurimitsu released, everyone says she wasn't powerful, but now when we look back on Tekken 7, we think it's her as the most busted thing in that game. How long and if Heihachi will also fall into that category? And then when you talk about the DLC story, once again, Heihachi's introduction and how it's supposed to fix everything, it didn't. And this is what I was saying. I made a video, and in that video, I was saying how Heihachi's reintroduction is probably going to greatly undermine Reina. I think they should have gave Reina time to flourish and be her own character, do her own things before bringing him back, but they just brought him back right away, right? So that's what this news article is tackling, how people really feel like Heihachi is just ruining everything. Controversial is how it's described. VG247 says, Heihachi is back. Previously, you talked about how important his death was in Tekken 7. Talk to me about the decision to bring him back. And this is something that I often highlight on the channel as well, is how much they emphasize they wanted to kill Heihachi. It's time to move forward. It's let's close this chapter. Let's do this. Let's do that. Why did you say all of that? Is in literally the next game you went back on it. Harada says, for Tekken 7, we wanted to conclude the battle between Heihachi and his son Kazuya. So when I ask for something for the team, usually when they go 70% as far as I ask for, I'm surprised. Even I don't usually go for that. For Tekken 8, it was already decided we wanted to convey the battle between Kazuya and his son, and so I was surprised that Heihachi dies as much as everyone else. And then the part about Tekken 8 focusing on Kazuya and Jin Kazama, this was also something that was teased at the end of Tekken 7, where Lars tells Jin that Kazuya is continuing the war and Jin is the only one that can stop him. One thing that's pretty interesting from that perspective as well, at the end of Tekken 7, we're shown that Jin Kazama is like harnessing his devil gene. It looked like he mastered his abilities. And then he starts off Tekken 8 getting clapped up and he can't control his devil genes at all. That jump in gap also doesn't line up, and that alone is like bad writing, right? The next one, Michael Murray says, I will add that the Tekken 8 director and we heard from Harada that even he needed a little convincing. So we tried to make it convincing. So even when Harada saw it, he was like, he's kinda dead. Harada says, it was a bit challenging. First, I start by saying, for the story of Tekken 8, we wanted to make it convincing as well. We couldn't just bring him back and throw him in the game. While it was challenging to bring him back and make a storyline where he didn't actually die, we wanted to make it very thorough and convincing for the fans. That's actually what people were saying they should have done. They should have just said, Heihachi is still dead, but this is an iconic character, 30th anniversary, we want to bring him back. He's still dead. He's not involved with the story, but this is just like a what if. You know how they have the what if endings? This is a what if character. And then also you could put all the other guest characters in the category of what if. That's the route that they should have went. They didn't have a vision. They didn't have a story. They didn't have an idea of what they wanted to do with Heihachi. They just knew they wanted to bring him back, but they felt pressured to put him in the story, and they just told a story that was about like he never died, but it wasn't really a story or a journey or anything. VG27, here's where Reina comes in, says, I would like to talk about Reina. She was introduced as a new generation, passing the torch for Heihachi. Are you concerned that with Heihachi returning, her impact on the series will be diluted a little? Reina was one of the few characters in the story who I absolutely loved. I think her whole portrayal, her whole trying to unlock the devil gene, secretive ambitions and what, all of that was done well. But now with Heihachi's return, one of the best parts of Tekken 8's story is now scrapped, is how it feels. Harada says, we introduced her. We thought she'd be somewhat popular, but it's beyond our expectation how much the fans have responded to the character as a whole. And this is something, just stopping there, that is very different from Tekken 7. Tekken 7, a lot of the new characters they added in was hated. Claudio, Katarina, Josie, Lucky Chloe, Gigas, so on and so forth. Tekken 8, even though Reina is the one that really like shines through, on release, people liked Victor. The reason why I believe people turned away from Victor is because his gameplay is too simple, it's too boring, it's too obnoxious. Victor represents the worst of Tekken 8, in my opinion. Azazina, you can blame Twitter for what happened with her. She was a popular character until Twitter got her nerfed, and now the character is like lost in time. So Reina right now is kind of the only one who people are still like celebrating throughout. But he says, so we see her continuing to be a vital part of the game moving forward, not just her moveset, but also her storyline as well. Just because Heihachi is back, her importance won't be diminished. So with this here, Harada says that they were expecting the character to be kind of popular, but she's extremely popular. So she will continue to be a big part of the game. But in my opinion, this is how they got themselves into a lot of trouble in the first place. If something isn't popular or if something isn't liked at first, they immediately pull back. This is what I mean when I say they lack the vision. Usually when a storyteller introduces a bad character or something like that, and then the audience dislikes it, they don't remove that character or wipe that character from existence. They tweak the character a little bit. The character stays on their trajectory, but they change slightly to become more enjoyable. I really don't know why the developers feel like if the players don't like it, remove it entirely. We have seen Tekken 6 affected by that, Tekken 7 affected by that, and Tekken 8. And as long as they keep this mindset, it will continue to happen where anytime the players dislike something, even a slight amount, it disappears. Some things should disappear, but not everything should be wiped away just because a couple of people didn't like it. You should have a vision, a goal for Reina, something you want to achieve with her. And even if the character is a little bad at the start, that's your opportunity to grow the character. That's usually how people do it. One of the most iconic Star Wars characters is Ahsoka Tano. When that character released, everyone hated her. She was disrespectful to the people who came before, Anakin, Obi-Wan. She was very arrogant. She was very yappy. She just was a bad character. And Star Wars didn't remove her from the franchise. What they did was they put her on this journey of humbling her. They kept that same arrogant personality, that same arrogant demeanor, but then they started to have her face the consequences of her actions. Obi-Wan says, don't do this. Anakin says, don't do that. She still does it. And then you have a whole entire troop of soldiers die, and now she's like, oh my god, I should have listened. That is what they did to humble this character, and how they crafted that character to be one of the great Star Wars characters to this day. And that's what I'm saying is that the Tekken developers don't do. They get pushback and they immediately pull out when they should stick to their guns and adapt on the fly. They're very bad at adapting, which is crazy because this is a Tekken game. This is a fighting game. Adapting is how you win. Labbing a matchup, learning, downloading your opponent. These guys in 30 years have never downloaded the story matchup. And it just shows constantly